What's happening, people? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex, and then this is episode 7 of Getting Strongman Training 2.0 Sled in the making. Trying like fabricating and measuring. What I'm doing over here is I got lucky enough. My neighbor had this kind of like constructing supporting beam, I would say, in a shape which is like a two-piece. One slides into the other, obviously to adjust the height. And then he was gonna get rid of it, and I was like, hey, if you don't want it, like, you know, I'm open hands over here. So I was lucky enough to find this piece of scrap metal over here and then use it to make obviously the handles for the sled. So, you know, free stuff, man, can't complain. I think overall the length of the pipe was about 7 to 8 feet tall, and then what I was doing is getting kind of like a rough idea of the length of the arms and then the sleeves. With the arms, I believe I went to about 3.5 to 4 feet of length. Obviously that would depend on to preference and then obviously how tall you are. I think about 3.5 and 4 feet is pretty standard, pretty normal in terms of like you know, handles for the sled. And then for the sleeves, I went with about 7 inches. Now with the sleeves, probably 6 inches would be you know, better in my opinion, because you know, it doesn't stick out as much. But you know, I did have a little bit of a doubt in terms of rigidity and strength, so I went with 7 inches. But now that I think about it, it probably was a little bit overkill. Now in terms of cutting tools, I'm using a metal cutting saw over here, as you can see. Now if you do not have like a tool like this, you can use an angle grinder. Obviously the cut might not be as straight, or it might be like more difficult to make it straight. You can use tape to kind of like get more of a better guidance, or you can go back to the simple old school like basics like a hacksaw. I got this tool, so that's why I'm using it. So cutting the two lengths of the arms or the legs of the sled, and then for the other section where there's going to be the sleeves, which is a little bit bigger, which the other pipe would slide in, I have to cut off the threads just to get access to the main pipe itself. So cut out the little thread section over here, which is like kind of like useless for the time being, and then what's going to make the two cuts for the sleeves. Again, for me that was like about 7 inches in length, which I'll probably go with 6, to be honest. It just makes it easier in terms of you know, being smaller, to like when you're going to store it away, it doesn't stick out as much. And obviously the whole purpose of the build was to have the, you know, sliding sleeves inside, so it doesn't have, you know, I don't have a sled laying around with 4 feet like legs sticking out, so I can easily slide them out and then store it away. 6 inches would be better, but I went with 7. But you know, anyway, it is what it is. Now we are going to need 2 sleeves, obviously 1 for each leg. Obviously if you want to make it 4, so you can put 2 on each side, you can. I'll just place 2 on, you know, at the end, which obviously I'm going to be pushing and then dragging. You know, some sleds they got 4 legs, you know, it's down to you. I've got some reserve material just in case, you never know when you're going to need it. In terms of other tools in for the job, coffee, obviously, as you can see, and a file set, which is pretty much cheap enough. You can get one for reasonably about £10. Be clever and then put the pipe on the bench, which obviously makes it easier because your back muscles are stronger than your shoulders, which obviously is what I've done over here. So a set of files to obviously smooth things out. Grinder, optional, you can still use a file over there. Grinder makes it easier and quicker work. Obviously over here would be to smooth out the edges from the outside. Trying to make it a little bit of an oval shape, so not as pointy, but like an oval shape, which is obviously will make it slide in into the sleeve easier. Kind of like be more practical on over there. Don't need to go crazy with it. A quick tip of the day, as you can see me kind of like getting a feel for the inside, is you can either use I would say like a deburring tool that I'm using over here, or you can use sandpaper, which is another option. I just found a deburring tool faster, and then, you know, kind of like it does the same job in my opinion. Not maybe as perfect as a sandpaper, because with sandpapers you get different loads of sandpaper, so you can smooth it out to your personal preference. But a deburring tool is quite cheap. I mean, you know, £5-6 you could get a set with changeable blades. You know, good tool to have around, just in my opinion. That will be the case for both pipes and both sleeves, so grinding and filing inside out, and then obviously deburring each ends of the pipe as well. Now moving on onto the sleeve, same procedure, kind of like smoothing things out. Now with the sleeves, when I did grind from the outside, I kept the grinder more level because I didn't want to make it into like a nice smooth or valve shape. Main reason being, when you are going to place it onto the Sled 2 welded, you want it to like kind of like lay flat in terms of like not moving around. So obviously if you smooth it out into like more of an egg shape at the top, it's gonna like wobble around, and then like it just ain't gonna. It's gonna be more difficult to make a spot weld on it rather than just sitting flat, in my opinion. Again, filing, same procedure as the other ones, nothing complicated, as you can see from over here, and then going back to deburring. Now, as for smoothing out the rest of the pipe, if you want to prep it for like paint work, you can still use a grinder, which I've been using. Obviously, I would advise get a mask because you don't want to be inhaling all that kind of like dust inside. Not really good for the lungs. But I did switch out to a drill with a wire brush. Main reason because noise complaints. I don't want to get like all the neighbors pissed off. So you can kind of like tone it down with a little bit with the drill with a wire brush. Obviously down to you how you want to do it. Keep it clean, people. Mandatory steps to obviously working in any workshop. That's personal belief. So with here, wire brush, kind of like get the main rust off over there, and then if you want to, prep it further for paint, by all means you can do. If you just want to keep it as simple and as practical, you can just leave it as it is. That's personal preference. I mean, I'm not going to judge. And then moving on to welding, I'm using my little budget flux core welder over here. Nothing fancy welds by any means. I'm not a professional, so it's not going to be any beautiful welds. Just making sure the sleeve is welded in solid onto the sled and it's not going to move, because at the end of the day, when you're pushing weight, the last thing you want to have is obviously the sleeve breaking down and then you kind of like falling onto the ground, which would be fun in a way, but painful as well. Same principle, I would say, as on both sides. Do some spot welds and then finish off with the rest of the welding all around. Make sure it's solid. Keep it clean as you can, and trying to do as best of a weld you can. I mean, again, I'm not perfect. I'm not doing any ASMR welds over here. Just making sure the sleeve doesn't come off. Overall, I'm quite happy with the build. Seems solid even when I tested it out in different types of ways. So I would say, job well done. It's not really the most like beautiful sled or the most fancy sled out there, but it does the jobs, and that's exactly what I wanted it to be. Now, in terms of use, I would say I was a little bit disappointed in the beginning because I didn't thought of it as that way in terms of sledding at the gym. My surface grass is not really kind of like the most even, and then the weight I put on there, I put 60 kg sandbag with probably 10 kg on the sled, so 70 kg weight to push. Probably not the best start on uneven grass kind of like surface over there, and then I kind of like switch it up to a lighter 30 kg, which done the trick. You can see me here like struggling to get it going, so that's 70 kg again. Surface on the grass not really even, and then with loads of gaps in there, so kind of like plan B, just go a little bit lighter. As you can see over here, sled working as it should in my overalls, not ideal, but anyway. But yeah, that was the video, guys. If you like the video, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment down below, tell me what you think about it, and then who knows, maybe a progress for a railway for the sled to push. Thank you for watching. I'll see ya in the next one.